And I go, but you just told me like you like closing and you're pretty good at it. Why would you replace yourself first? Like you got to get all the other things that you just told me are things that are bottlenecks in your business. Like get those delegated out, because if there's anything that you need, if you hire somebody out in your superpower and it goes wrong and you're not good at the other parts, then you're going to start sinking, right?
All right, David Pupo from Orlando, Florida, wholesaler, investor, and everything in between. You got a lot of good stuff going on, man. So excited to have you here. For people who don't know who you are, why don't you give a little rundown of your background and everything that you have going on right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, pleasure, Mike. Thanks for having me on here. As you mentioned, name's David Pupo, real estate investor here in Orlando. The company is called Florida House Buyers, but we're now not more than just outside of the state of Florida. We touch on just about every state in the Southeast for our wholesaling operation. We've made it now more of an intention to be able to now purchase a lot more multifamily this year. So we're going after a little bit bigger fish with that, but we're keeping the wholesaling operation really systems operated and just really lean. And it's been actually a pretty good ride so far for the beginning of 2023.
Nice. I'm impressed that you got Florida home buyers. I feel like that was one that would have been bought by somebody in 10 years ago. And
yeah, it did.
Yeah.
So what happened? Yeah. So what happened is that LLC lapsed over here in the state of Florida, and we snagged it, right? But the domain is still gone. They wanted like a lot of money for it. So we just did myfloridahousebuyer.com. So
there you go. Yeah. It's funny right now, just because the game's gotten so popular, right? People are coming up with like everything, and you're trying to put together like a business name for wholesale business. You're like, okay, Blue Stag home buyers. Shit, no, it's taken. Like you just pick random adjective, random animal, verb, whatever, noun, and it's just like there's nothing there, but you managed to get it going.
Not only on the LLC part, but it's the domain part that hurts a little bit more too, right? That one's been a little bit tougher, right? Because we our marketing entity that we use to go into the other states, as you can imagine, as us like trying to acquire properties in Tennessee, Florida House Buyers isn't probably the best marketing entity, right? So we had to do we buy houses fast, like .us. There was no .coms, no .cos that were available, or if they were selling it, it was an exuberant amount. And I was like, no, .us, right? So it's tough to get them all lined up like that.
Yeah, it's just always something. But it's funny because those are little details too that people will get caught up on. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. No. It all comes down to your general marketing execution anyway. No, so that's cool. So I know it's a wholesale operation. That's how it started. You said you're starting to produce a larger multifamily. I guess what's your business look like overall though? How many deals are you doing? What's your team look like? I know we talked on the just before the show that you've been acquiring some assets. You've got some smaller multifamilies that you've been figuring out. So give us the big picture about what's working for you.
Yeah. So the real estate operation, we did 6 deals in January. So it started off pretty hot. We do a lot also with being able to help out on like JV dispo. So if people, disposition, so if people aren't able to locate buyers, especially if it's here in Florida, I mean, we have a really good stronghold in Florida. So if people have properties that are here in Florida and they need help with selling the deals, I mean, we just sold 2 this week from, people that we work with all the time. And that's also been able to be now kind of like a waterfall for us, right? Now people are just getting used to being able to, well, heck, give it a week, and then if they can't sell it, they still give us a week to be able to sell it, thankfully. So the wholesale operation itself, though, it's all virtual. I used to have a all in-house team, and I'm actually starting to pack up that office because I'm not renewing the lease because I'm the only one in there. And that's crazy. When I started wholesaling, I started off with like a real estate brokerage that was very here in Florida, like short sales, foreclosures were still kind of a thing when I started, right? Back in 2016, 2017, they were on the back end, but they were still being done a lot. In that world, like it was just like everybody always had to be in the office and like grind, make a lot of phone calls, right? So I was embedded with that kind of thought when I built the first version of my wholesale company, right? And so when me and my partner split, we only had three other in-house people. We ended up letting go one of them. One of them left just because the partnership blew up, and then the other person just kind of decided to resign. So what we did is then we restructured it, and slowly but surely, I started realizing a who, not how mentality, right? Started finding a virtual assistant that could handle this, a virtual assistant that can handle that, two that could be our lead managers, right? And then we have me still as a closer, and then we have two people in dispositions, and then we have a transaction coordinator, right? So we've been able to delegate almost everything except for the closer. That's 100% on me. That's my superpower, and it's hard to relinquish it. So I will hopefully agree and admit that one. But everything else we've been able to systemize and get really great processes.
Nice. I mean, I think what you said there is an important thing, though, right? Where you say that's your superpower. Because I know there's a lot of people that I've met that have been in your similar situation where they're looking to build their business. They're looking to, bring in staff, systems, all that sort of stuff. And the first thing that most people try to get is like an acquisitions manager or a closer.
Yeah.
Because that's what like all of the general books, mentors, coaches, whatever say you should get is you should bring in sales. But if you're good at it, you should hold on to that for as long as you can, because and outsource the other stuff that you're not good at,
right.
like you said, like the maybe the TC or the marketing or all those sort of things. And I think that's an important part of the entrepreneurial journey is being honest about that with yourself and bringing in people that are going to fill the gaps that you struggle with and don't enjoy, rather than like what you feel like you're supposed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a younger like wholesaler here in this market that was exactly what he was pitched, Mike, to the T. Hey man, make sure you go get closers and stuff like that. And I asked him like, what other things have you hired out so far? And he's like, nothing. And I go, but you just told me like you like closing and you're pretty good at it. Why would you replace yourself first? Like you got to get all the other things that you just told me are things that are bottlenecks in your business. Like get those delegated out, because if there's anything that you need, if you hire somebody out in your superpower and it goes wrong and you're not good at the other parts, then you're going to start sinking, right? At least if you have the superpower, most of us that started off with wholesaling, not everybody, but most of us have like the idea of being able to do the closing part, right? Being a closer. And, I think that you got to keep that going as long as you can until I'd say you got at least like a 3 to 4 month, wiggle room. I'd say, reserves kind of there, because you got to train them, right? It's going to take some time. We would love to be able to think that these people are going to be able to immediately hit the road running, but realistically training 2-4 weeks, and then they start getting contracts, and that's going to take another 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, and that all takes appropriate planning and knowledge to even, I guess, have the wherewithal for that. So you have your virtual business built out. What's your general like lead gen and lead flow look like?
Yeah. So a lot of people were chasing like list stacking and stuff like that. And I gotta say, I was never a big fan of it. We still primarily do cold calling. I've danced around with a lot of different marketing. And as we were kind of talking about earlier, right? There's a 7-figure wholesaling operation, every type of marketing that there is, right? But what I realized is, what did I want to be able to also grow the wholesaling company was to also acquire the multifamily, right? So if I was just doing a wholesale operation and nothing else, I would stay in PPC. That's still, I think, you pay a little bit more for it, but if you're efficient, you're at least a contractor like 10 to 12 and you're killing it. And that's a great model. But I wanted to start being able to pull in the multifamily, right? And I've had several of those PPC advisors tell me there's just that avatar is a different person. They do not go, I need to sell my 20 units. You need to go find them, right? So that's why I've stuck with cold calling for my model right now.
Yeah. So you're doing like mass cold calling then, or is it like just super targeted?
No, we do. We have 6 cold callers. We're pulling like over 60,000 leads every single month. So it is We target stuff that have higher equity because we like to
Mhm.
be able to see if, say, that cash offer doesn't work for them, what other options can work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's solid. So, so those that's for the multifamily stuff. You're still pursuing it with like that cash offer sort of mentality
Hmm.
and trying to get things at those heavy discounts. Because that's one thing that we found as we've started to pursue these larger multifamily assets is, you're right, it's a different avatar. They don't need to sell it. Getting something at like the cash offer sort of pitch isn't what they want. What they want is like a guaranteed close, an easy sell, save on the broker commissions. But also too, with a lot of those assets, because they're so large, if you buy them at like 90 cents on the dollar, you can still make good money. You can still have decent upside. You don't need to be getting things at 70% minus repairs like we do on the residential side.
Right.
But it sounds like you're actually still going for that same traditional wholesale discount, or am I off on that?
With the multifamily, with the
Yeah. Because I guess
multifamily,
when
we don't hit it
I
as
guess where I
hard.
got lost is
Hmm.
yeah. Okay. So because on the cold callers that you said you have 6 cold callers. First off, are those all in house, or do you have like a service that you use?
We use a service. Yeah, we use Call Geeks.
Yeah. You call gigs? Okay, cool.
Hmm.
And so are those people, are they hitting just only multifamily, or are they hitting for your wholesale as well?
They hit wholesale as well, so they do both, right? So
Okay.
that was
Gotcha.
part of being able to
That
have
makes
the
more
training.
sense.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted
Yeah.
just
Okay, gotcha.
one
I
marketing medium that brought in all these types of leads.
gotcha. Okay. So do they have like different scripts for the different kinds of sellers, or is it all just like purely engage the conversation and then your team takes it once it comes in?
The cold calling team doesn't change the script; the lead managers do. Because
Lead managers do.
that's
Okay,
where, yeah,
perfect.
because at the end of the day with the cold callers, they're just, if somebody raises their hand, yeah, I guess like I'm interested. Then when we get it into the lead managers, I call my lead managers like they're the ones that are like the massagers, right? They're going in, they're finding out a little bit more about what's really going on, just more than the basics of a price, a timeline, an address. Nobody's really sharing their motivation that much with the cold callers, right? So you need to be a
Yeah.
little bit more of that massage therapist, get in there a little bit deeper and find out what's kind of going on.
Yeah. Well, that's such an important point though with any form of marketing. We do mostly direct mail. That's what we
Mm-hmm.
started with. We have found that it gives us a great sort of way to cycle our lead flow. The people that call in, they've chose to call in. The motivation is generally pretty high. Um, but when we talk to people and when we coach people in our instant investor program
Mm-hmm.
about, direct mail and those sort of things, everyone always fixates on the copy. And they're like, what is the best copy to get people to, like tell people what you're trying to do, right? They're always thinking that it's like a sales pitch from like a, I don't know, like a coupon or something like that you get in the mail. And it's like, that's not important. It's all about engaging the initial conversation. And then honestly, once they're engaged with your company, they're talking to your lead managers, your acquisition managers. Um, that's where, you give them your message. Right.
Right.
And like, honestly, once they start talking, they don't even care about the initial contact anymore. They've completely forgotten about that, and then they are now building a relationship with your business. And cold calling is much the same. We have the same with texting, with
Mm-hmm.
everything in between, right? So, um, nice. That's cool. That makes sense. So the cold callers are dialing everybody. The lead managers, take everything. At what point do the lead managers pass it off to, I guess, you being the closer?
Yeah. So we want to be able to make sure, like, and this is like Brand Daniel stuff. I would love to be able to say I came up with it, but I didn't, right? It's really making sure that I have my 4 pillars, right? I want to know what kind of price point we're talking about. I want to know what these people's motivation is. I want to understand the timelines that they're working on, right? And of course, the overall condition of the property. If I'm getting those 4 things, I tell them, listen, be able to bring that over to me. I've been able to start conditioning and practicing with those lead managers to now be able to not only propose like a cash offer, but open up the idea for, say, like a novation style agreement or a creative financing agreement as well. So if they're showing
Mhm.
any open mindedness to those other 2 approaches, so I just tell them to be able to bring it over to me, and I'll have that conversation with them.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Um, so as you're doing that, what's your typical lead flow look like on 60,000? Like actual lead flow, not like people that, engaged in the cold callers submitted because they were like, oh, they had a conversation with me today. Because 60,000 dials a month is a lot.
That is a
So
lot.
it
Yeah.
must be, I imagine it's somewhat significant. Yeah.
Yeah. So we average 60 leads. Each cold caller gets about
Okay.
2 leads a day. So, times that by, of
Okay.
course, that they're all having like 10 a week. So you got 60 for that. And then we're going from 60 to about 15, give it about to 13 on the amount of properties that we would go into opportunities or appointments, right? And from the
Mm-hmm.
opportunities is where we set the appointments. And then from the appointments is where we're going into the contract send. So that's pretty much our
Yeah.
sales funnel on being able to get to about 2 contracts about a week, right? So our lead to contract right now is around 37. It's not too
It's not
bad,
bad.
right? Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
So that's how we've been able to kind of, reverse engineer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And those KPIs, I mean, as you know, you've been around this for a while. It's probably, I would say it's probably the most important part of this business to figure out for longevity, because it allows you to project, what sort of success you should expect as you, increase your marketing, reduce your marketing, you put in X amount of work. You probably, like, what's your typical deal size wholesale?
Yeah, just about 15. Mm-hmm.
15,000. Perfect. So
Mm-hmm.
you know that, for every 37 leads that come in, you can expect to make about 15,000. And then if your business is like most wholesale businesses, those 15,000, they kind of like keep the bank account full, allow you to scale, give you a little bit of paycheck. And all of it, though, is at its core is fundamentally hunting for like those bigger deals where you'll make
Right.
like real money.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, nice. So that's cool. So as you sort of built that out, what have you found has been like your kind of secrets to success with a lot of this? Because one of the things I love that what you've built is what I would say is like the most what's the right word? It is the most typical sort of wholesale business you can think of. Like, what you're doing is you're executing at a high level, but you're not
Yeah.
trying to do anything cute. You don't have like some sort of bullshit that you're like, oh, this is like my magic thing that I pretended to invent, but just stole from somebody else.
Yeah.
You have a repeatable business. You're executing well. What do you think has been your secret to that success? Is it just consistency, or do you have something else behind it?
I mean, yeah, consistency is always everything, and I think you alluded to it earlier with the KPIs, man. The KPIs
Mm-hmm.
is where last year I went next level with it. Next level, absolutely was able to get dashboards built out, be able to start meeting with
Nice.
my CPA. If it's not every 2 weeks, it's 4 weeks. So we were having those conversations, and it's probably a blessing in disguise. When I had a partner, I was willing to oversee a lot of things, but I also had like okay, he's taking care of it thought process, right? So once him and I split, it went all back on me, right? So I had to make sure I'm looking underneath the hood on everything and making sure everything was humming. And I found out, unfortunately, that a lot of things weren't, right? So I had to be able to
Mm-hmm.
come in and be a mechanic on my own wholesaling operation. I started just being able to finesse and fix every single little thing here and there. And my KPIs were the immediate way that I could get things going in that right direction. And right, that superpower of me being a really good closer helped out 100% on that too.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, cool. So yeah, so then as you're going through this, you're doing the wholesale
Mm-hmm.
stuff. How do you normally approach that? Like, are you doing 70% minus repairs? You mentioned that you have a strong dispo process. Are you like doing a lot of reverse wholesale? I know, especially right now as the market's turned, that's been a common tactic for people.
I would say that we do like the reverse wholesaling. I would say really if we're really here in like the surrounding Central Florida area, my buyers list is still very strong in it. But we've been able to build out a disposition process that quite frankly, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter to
Mm-hmm.
be able to just be in one area, and it's been able to get consistent results, right? So we're making sure that so we use Investor Lift as like our first real, if we had to think about like a blitzkrieg, right? So I thought about that. The first wave is going to be something really heavy with Investor Lift, going through our God
Yeah.
mode, going through our emails,
Yeah.
and just being able to first target that area, right? Second wave.
Nice. You actually get success with Investor Lift.
So I would say that we're at like 30. If I had to give you like out of 10 deals, Investor Lift probably sells about 3 of them. It's
Really
really on
interesting.
the
I mean,
other
that's better
sides.
than
Yeah.
most.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just like, because there's a heavy interest in Florida. Most people I know that have used Investor Lift have said it's a giant scam, just nonsense, because everything just gets washed away in people's inboxes.
Yeah. But that, I mean, it's very critical to be able to, have a twofold attack there, right? You can't only just rely on
Mm-hmm.
email because you're falling
Yeah.
into the same thing that happened when everybody jumped on MailChimp or Constant Contact. It's the same exact thing. It's just a mail server, right? So you got to be able to
Mm-hmm.
approach it with multiple facets. That's where we've been able to get a consistent, repeatable process with dispositions, is then now going into our God mode, being able to text buyers through there, right? And then we're very heavy with batch leads. So with batch leads, we're also finding a lot of the cash buyers in those areas, right? We're calling them and texting them in through that area, right? And then we're also being able to utilize like Craigslist or like Facebook Marketplace. So we have 4 waves of being able to find buyers. And it is a really
Nice.
great, consistent model to be able to follow.
Nice. That's awesome. I mean, I think it does help a lot too that the Florida buyers market is just so crazy. We've started
Yeah.
doing some stuff down in Jacksonville,
Mm-hmm.
and compared to like where I'm at up in Washington State, just the availability of buyers, the interest of buyers is like next level, because you have tons of out of state people. There are people with there that are like career investors. I mean, one of the issues that we encountered up here in Spokane over the past year was we went and we pulled like a list of all the investor purchases that had happened over the last year, just as the market slowed down. And we were one of the biggest ones.
Really?
We're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
We're trying to dispo in a market where we're the key buyer. We don't want that.
I think that's a bit of cannibalism if I ever heard of it.
Yeah. So we had to adjust, and that's one of the big reasons we started going virtual too, was, the key buyers had sort of dried up.
Right.
Yeah. So no, that's good. So I guess as you're building that disposition process, how do you nurture those as well? Because disposition is relationship based as much as, deal based and everything else. Do you have like a nurturing process? Do you run a meetup? Do you do, I know you do a little bit of content that probably helps as well.
Right. So here in Central Florida, I do a lot of content. I do a lot of events around here in Central Florida. Like I said,
Nice.
it's something I used to be like a board director for one of the local RIAs. Like, so I've been really of that mindset from the get go. Like, I learned a lot from other people at the RIAs. They helped me out a whole bunch. That's where a lot of my private lenders still to this day come from. Our self-directed IRA clients, our private lenders have come from those RIAs, right? Because they've been able to see my career scale up, get some success. They've seen some of the setbacks, and they've also seen me learn from those setbacks, right? So it's been a really great process to be able to be in these kind of communities here. We started a couple of our own to be able to, teach others. And then we have like our nurturing events that we go to make sure that, people are still active and still engaged in being able to buy.
Yeah. And that's super important from a positioning standpoint as well, especially in a competitive market. A lot of people tend to discount this because, they've been listening to Bigger Pockets forever, and everyone says like, oh, if you have a good deal, like the money will find you. But honestly, that's not true if people don't trust you.
Yeah.
Like, and that's something that we've done and we've tried to make a point of doing generally is we try to make our deals that we're trying to sell visible to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we already have a buyer, we're buying it ourselves. It's not even available for other people because it shows that momentum in your business, and instantly you get more credibility from the random people that are out there.
Yeah.
So
I think what I can add to that too is why it's so great to have it so process oriented, right? Because if your people are very process oriented with it, then that means there's not a whole bunch of variables, right? If you can be able to eliminate a lot of variables and they have a consistent model on how they're approaching, the buyers will sense that, right? If you're a little bit sporadic, if you're a little bit green behind the ears, if you don't know exactly what you're talking about with buyers, they can sense it, right? Because like if you called me right now and go, hey, are you a buyer here in Orlando? And I go, yeah. And then you try talking to me about a property and you tell me it's like worth $800,000 and it needs $200,000 in repairs. I'm like, dude, the average sales price here in Orlando is like $350 to $400. Why are you talking to me about this, right? Like you immediately lost me. So you got to be able to understand what's going on in any market, right? And then if your people are trained up, and we go through that every single day. I have 30 minutes for dispositions and I have 30 minutes for acquisitions every single morning. And I ask them, what are some of the obstacles you are coming across, right? What is it, something that somebody tripped you up on? Let's go over it. Let's do a role play on it. And that's been what really helped out with our team.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. Awesome. You mentioned before the show that something that you've been doing a lot is like this. You said it was a 3 offer method that you found has worked pretty effective
Yeah.
for making offers with sellers.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear kind of what that entails, and I'm sure there's some good tidbits there that a listener could take from that.
100% right now. Right now in this current market, man, you got to be able to understand you can't be just a one trick pony. Yeah, if you're
Mm-hmm.
just solely going out there and making cash offer, cash offer, cash offer, you're just leaving so much money on the table, right? Because what we're being able to see, and this is why our leads to contract are so efficient, because we're being able to make sure when we're talking with sellers, they're staying with us. After our first offer,
Mm-hmm.
say our cash offer, more times than not, a seller goes, well, what's your offer? And if you make an offer and they don't like it, all right, well, thanks for your time. Click, right? So that's why
Yeah.
our lead managers, like I mentioned, like I've made sure that, like, hey, is that seller open-minded to a novation style agreement where we get them a little bit more money, but it's going to take them 60 to 90 days. Are they okay with that, right? Or creative financing, right? If you're so fixated on your price, Mike, are you willing to give me my terms? And what I'm going to be able to
Mm-hmm.
do, Mike, is all this equity that you have built up in your house, we are now going to convert that, and you are now going to be the bank of Mike. You are the person that I pay every single month with interest on some of the ones. Sometimes we do, negotiate principal only, but I'm paying
Yep.
you as opposed to I got to go get a mortgage from Bank of America to pay off your mortgage, and then I have to pay them. Why don't you just collect the interest? How's that sound? So you get them open minded very quickly on something like that. So the 3 offer cash starting always anchors the expectations. And if they accept it, awesome. Of course, we'll never restructure anything. We make sure, we win at the end. It doesn't matter what offer they pick. So the cash wholesale
Yeah.
deal, right? That's offer 1. Then we make a gentle into the offer 2, which is called our steering wheel offer, right? Because I want to be able to guide them. And this is what usually guides them into that third one, hopefully, because that's usually our favorite offer, right? So steering wheel offer is probably something like a novation, or maybe a creative financing deal where we're being able to give them some interest on the deal. It depends, of course, on the equity, right? So we got to be able to see what their mortgage kind of looks like. Are we doing a subject to with them, with like a hybrid, where we pay off their mortgage and then we're also paying them a mortgage, right? So we got to know what's going on with that. If they're at 100% equity or something like less than 20%, we will bring them up to a principal only cash offer where it can be at
Mm-hmm.
their asking price, or heck, it could even be more than their asking price because it is principal only, right? So we're being able to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that our monthly payments are only going to principal. So we're in a really great
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, principal only is huge. We've done that on several deals, and
Yeah.
it makes the IRR on the deal
Oh,
like game changer,
oh my
especially if it's like
gosh,
a
it's
turnkey
amazing.
property.
It's the holy
Yeah,
grail. If you're being able to get a principal only deal, it's the holy grail. It's amazing.
it is. Yeah, it's huge. So I like that steering wheel method you talked about. So I was going to ask you how you pitch novations to people, because that's something that's come up
Yeah.
pretty regularly just right now with the market conditions, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different listeners have asked about that.
Yeah.
Because you know how it is too. If you get on the phone with the seller and you're like, "Well, would you be open to innovation?" They go, "What the hell's that?"
Right.
And I feel immediately stupid because I don't know what that is, and I no
Yeah.
longer want to work with you.
Yeah, so I've learned this from other coaches. Once again, I'm not somebody who's like a crazy reinvent the wheel person, right? So my coaches and mentors in the novation game have been Pace Morby, Eric Brewer, and Corey Geary. One's in
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania, one's in Arizona, and well, Corey and actually Pace are both in Arizona. So it's
Yep.
learning that you don't say the word novation to somebody because you are right. You
Yep.
immediately throw them off, right? So you kind of have to make sure that you're not trying to talk like nuclear physicist to somebody who doesn't understand the nuclear physics world, right? Why would you do that? Because then you're going to make them feel
Yep.
stupid, and then they feel rejected, and they're not going to go with you, right? So you have 2 different ways that they go with it, right? Some of them call it like a concierge offer. I think Eric calls it like an equity protection program. And what you're
Yep.
essentially just being able to do is you're just putting a nice little wrapping and a present on that same exact vehicle, right? At the end of the day, it's the same thing. We're marketing it out to buyers. we're getting you a higher net offer. It's just going to take 60 to 90 days. Are you cool with that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, we recorded with Eric Brewer last week, and he was telling us about the equity protection program. And then to add even another part onto it, if you do have like a novation that's going to need a little bit of work, basically what you do is you save it for what do you call it, like his like staging or like his like sale preparation program, but they only do it after inspection, like, and everything's sort of looking to close. But it's all about just like packaging it in a way that is appealing to the end.
Yeah, man. Hey, learn from all these other marketing companies, right? They don't tell you all the ingredients on the back of a Coca-Cola bottle, right? They just tell you it's called soda. That's it, right?
Yeah,
that's it.
Well, I think they do tell you the ingredients, but don't tell you what's in all those ingredients.
Right.
Not that anyone really cares anyway. That's the most important thing. Awesome, man. So that's good stuff. I love what you're doing, dude, because like you are a true like wholesaler. You're running the business. You're doing all the stuff that you're supposed to do, and surprise, you're having success with it because you're consistent, and that's the number one place where people drop it. Awesome, man. So we're going to dive into the end of the show here. We always have 3 questions that we finish out for the show. So the first question we have is always the group favorite, but it is, what is your craziest real estate investing story? And this can be a big win, big loss, crazy seller. The only rule is you're not allowed to talk about finding a dead person in property. Because we had a little span where we had like 6 of those in a row, and it got super weird.
Yeah, man. Oh, man, that's good. Because I would say that our model has now gone a little bit virtual, so I haven't had to walk in. But like back on the days when I was throwing out a lot of bandit signs and being able to show properties and be able to do like trying for dollars and door knocking, that was kind of like the inside hustle. There's been 100% times where I've walked in and there was somebody that just breaks into a house. I'm blanking out right now.
Like a squatter.
There it is. I actually had that happen when I was showing a property, and the squatter took the back right room, and I did not bring any firearms, didn't have any weapons on me. And I noticed that one of the doors was locked, and they were like an Indian couple that invested a lot in the other areas around there. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have these 2 people here and I'm about to do it. And I just asked them politely, hey, do you mind just either going into the kitchen or stepping outside? I don't have the key for this door, right? And so what I did, so they did do it. And I literally like spoke underneath the door, and I go, hey man, I know you're in here. I know this door is locked. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to give you $20 if you just open this door and walk out the door. I'm not going to call the police. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to offer you actually $20 to just simply leave the house right now. And the guy said, yeah, that's fine. And so he opened up the door, and I gave him the 20. I'm like, please just leave. I'm trying to buy this house. And it worked. Yeah. But like I was scared to death, man, because like I said, like,
oh, I bet.
Yeah. When you have like, and this was an area where you certainly have some drug addicts, right? So you're just like, oh my gosh, please just don't be on something where they're acting absolutely crazy. But luckily enough, the dude was like 9:30 in the morning when I showed this, but the guy was just kind of like waking up, and he was like, yeah, cool. I'm fine. All right. That sounds good. I was like, oh, thank God, man. It could have gone way worse.
It's like the cheapest cash for keys ever.
Oh my gosh, like man. It was so great. Because I said like, hey, I don't want to call the cops. I don't want to get anybody involved. Just take the $20 and go. And he was completely fine with that.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. We do a lot of cash for keys, and they're never quite that cordial or that friendly.
No, they certainly aren't.
But yeah, nice. No, that's good. All right. So second question, what is the number one tip you would give to either a new investor looking to get started or a small time investor looking to take their business to the next level?
Yeah. So I get this one a lot because it is really critical, right? It is just so important to be able to start understanding what you want, right? Do you want to be able to grow a wholesaling company? Then just focus in as much as you can on wholesaling, right? What really derailed me, I say like in the first like year and a half, was trying to throw in this thing, that thing, this technique, this marketing technique, this strategy here. And you lose momentum really quickly being able to do that. Right. So one of my mentors says it in like the most perfect way. And since then, it's just stuck with me, right? You know, call it a sunny day. You have a magnifying glass. The only way that that magnifying glass gets hot enough to burn anything underneath it is that you have to keep it in one spot, focused, right? It can harness that energy behind it on a sunny day. But if you're waving that magnifying glass around, nothing's going to get hot underneath it, right? That's your same thing. That's your energy, right? So focus it. You know, if you're going to go in on wholesaling, go in on wholesaling. Keep your head down. Focus on how many people you're talking to every single day, how many appointments you're setting, and how many contracts you're sending out. If you start focusing on just being able to do that every single day, you're going to get success.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And I think to add on that as well is even if you don't want to be a wholesaler, but you want to be a successful real estate investor, like just a slightly step back from focus on the marketing and sales.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, just like determine an exit strategy that you want to do. And even if you only want to look for rentals, understand you're going to have like a little bit more cash that needs to go into the front portion of every property. But if you can figure out marketing and sales, like the upside in this industry is insane.
Yeah.
You know, and if I don't know how you were, but like for me, my goal when I started was to buy rental properties, and wholesaling kind of came around an accident because I was like, well, I don't have the ability to take down this property, or I have more properties than I want to buy, or I don't want to buy this particular property. And so we started wholesaling just as part of the business, part of being a full-time real estate investment business. Wholesaling is a tool as much as it is a, you know, industry.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So
100%. And I couldn't agree more with that. Right. You just got to understand what you're trying to attack, man. That is just so critical, whether it's flips, rentals, or anything like that. Just be able to focus in on it. Have your agents and just have one offer submitted every single day for a rental or anything like that. Because it's a very similar strategy for me. I was like, I do want, and that's why now I'm so happy to be able to start getting into the hold model, right? Buying actual properties. Because for a long time I was wholesaling deals. I was getting great checks, but I was like, damn, it would have been really great to be able to keep that, right? And especially since I was wholesaling prior to COVID, and since wholesaling it in now, right? And prices for a lot of these properties I sold doubled, if not tripled. And I'm just like, man, that was a lot of money missed, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I even kept a ton. I've kept about 30 properties that I bought over the, you know, since I've been in business for the last 3 years. But there's so many of them. I was like, man, if I just kept like 10 more, I'd have an extra couple 7 figures on my net worth right now. It's the way things have gone. But hey, you know, live and you learn, and it's a lifestyle business, right? It goes for the long term.
Yeah, and there's always another train coming. You know, that is a good way to think about it. Call it the sweat equity. I mean, heck, you're also making some of the money too, right? But there's always another train coming. You're getting better skills because you're right, man. If somebody can just focus in on these two things, and you're going to have a very successful business. It doesn't matter if it's only wholesaling, right? Lead gen and those conversions of leads. That's it. If you can focus on a 1-2 punch, lead gen and conversions of leads, that's every business, right? So if you understand how to get that very basic philosophy really going, I mean, you're going to be in a good spot.
Absolutely. And then with real estate too, on that same zone, if you can buy stuff at a discounted rate, regardless of what's going on in the market, you're going to do well.
Right.
And there's always going to be real estate. And if you can get like the lead gen and the closing of deals figured out, like you can always have opportunities. It's not real estate. A lot of people, they look at like the recessions and they're like, man, I should have bought all stuff 2008. Real estate isn't like, it's not like Bitcoin, right? Where there was like one time where it was worth 10 cents. And now it's like, that's like a lifetime thing that you missed out on. That sucks, whatever. Everyone did, you know, except for that handful of geeks that were into that way back then. Real estate is something that you always have that opportunity. You just have to put in, like you said, the lead gen and the closing on it, the acquisitions, and then you can create money and wealth and opportunity anytime that you want.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder, but it's literally always there.
I mean, some of my favorite people and going into like the multifamily are those tired landlords, man, that have owned these properties for 20 or 30 years. It's actually, I don't know why, but I get like a little slight pleasure to be able to see that these people would buy something, or even some lady I'm talking to right now built duplexes, right? And she built them out for $50,000, and now she's selling they're by the way, that they have no mortgage on them. So she's been making just profit every single year since she built them. And now she's trying to sell each and every one of those duplexes for $350,000, right? So that's
Wow.
7x from her buy to whatever she resells. And oh, by the way, she's owned it for like 25 years. So like, I don't even know what that compounds into, right? So it's just, that's where the wealth is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's huge. And that's, everyone can be that person if they start and they do it for long enough. Awesome. All right. So last question, where can people find you, follow you, and reach out to you if you'd like them to do so?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I put my, my little, handle or whatever they call it nowadays at Dollars with David. So you can find that on TikTok. You can find that on Instagram. As you can imagine, David Pupo is not the most common name in the world. So you could find me on Facebook as well. And then we just launched actually tripleoffer.com on there. And we just did a free case study for people where we just netted 58,000 on a deal earlier on in January. And that's a free case study that we're providing. And then also, I would love to be able to see how we could provide anything for your audience there, Mike, on anything that they need help with being able to start getting their journey going.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so cool. So I just found you, just followed you back. I know you followed me for a little bit, so now we're mutual there. But yeah, man. I mean, people that listen to our show, they always are interested in reaching out to guests and things that they vibe with. So, anything that you want to, I guess, plug or you come up with, or even if between now and when this episode comes out here in the next little bit, you can send it over to me, and I'll add it in as like a little outro, and we'll put it on.
Perfect.
So
Yeah, not a problem.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, David. Anything else you want to add before we sign off here?
No, man. Hey, I just appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be able to share a little bit of my experience and story with the audience members here, and hopefully they get some value out of it. Right? The whole thing I've loved about this real estate investment world is being able to learn and then be able to teach and give back to others. It's just honestly, it's so emotionally rewarding to be able to just help others. Because I remember at one point or another, I was completely lost with this stuff, right? But you get great people, podcasts. I mean, this is how I jumped into it. It was the Bigger Pockets podcast, right? You learn from all these people, and you're being able to just soak it in and hopefully take action on it. So it's just an awesome process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the reasons that you find a lot of people that like to teach this is because it is one of those things that honestly anybody can do it if you put in the work and you build a general system around it. And the upside, like, it is a life-changing business once you figure it out.
Yep.
I mean, I know tons of people that have gone from being, lower income people to locked in a W-2 to, unemployed even, that have been able to completely change their lives because they learn to generate leads for off-market real estate, and they learn to close deals, and they figure out just like general exit strategies for them, which there's a high demand for it. So
yeah,
there's tons of opportunity. Yeah, awesome. So cool, David. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate your time. And you guys, if you have any interest in wholesaling, just like the general business structure, anything related to off-market real estate, you should reach out to David. He is super knowledgeable about what he does. He's built an awesome business that is repeatable. It's done effectively, and he's crushing it right now. So absolutely reach out to him at all of the links that he provided. Besides that, if you have any friends that are interested in off-market real estate, wholesaling, anything in between, please share this show with them. That is the easiest way for us to grow, is if you share this with your friends, colleagues, family who are interested in real estate. Besides that, guys, if you leave us a 5-star review, it really helps out a lot, and we really appreciate it. Besides that, thanks so much for listening. Talk to y'all next week.